Well, first of all, I grew up here in Blacksburg, and so I went to Blacksburg High School and went to Virginia Tech. So I'm here, and my family's been in business here in January it'll be 50 years.
Wow.
So that's a long time to be in business somewhere.
Yeah.
But what's weird is I still feel like a little bit of an outsider, in a way. Like even if you break it down to the way that we talk, you and I have very similar dialect, Appalachian dialect.
Yeah.
And you don't hear that from a lot of people or residents and stuff. And I think that it's not the same as what I grew up in. And I think, there's this weird little movement that's saying, we want to keep Blacksburg, but I don't know if it's that or if you want to make Blacksburg what you want to make Blacksburg.
What's going on, everybody? Got Matt from Campus Automotive over here today. We're in the middle of a really interesting conversation here. We're just going to let's just forget the cameras are even on here. We were talking about the Blacksburg meeting coming up about the gun, banning guns in public spaces that people need to know about for sure. So let's just continue that conversation.
Yeah,
that's overstepping of.
I think it may be. I think it may be, and I think that it's probably a decision made based more on, like you said earlier, feelings or a particular taking a side instead of really weighing out the facts of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of good people out here who choose to carry firearms, and if you change an ordinance or change a law, it doesn't keep the bad guys from carrying firearms.
Yeah.
And so I think that rationally, I think you're not, because you don't have a problem. Like you're making up a problem that's not really there to solve it.
In the name of security, all behind the mask of COVID. Because too many people right now do not want to get out into the community, and these are community decisions that are being made behind the proverbial mask.
Yes.
And I have a big moral conflict when they get to use this moment to make key legislation and laws for us when we do not want to be a part of the process.
Right.
Just because we elected them doesn't mean that they get full reign over the decisions that we make.
Right.
I want this community to know the leaders. Too many in this community, if you went and told them, you asked them who Joanna Hicks was, or you asked them who the mayor of Blacksburg is, they couldn't name her.
Correct.
They could not name this lady. I'm having trouble myself. Even I know her.
Hager Smith.
Yes.
Yeah.
So these people, we need to really be paying attention. We need to be paying attention to the situations, and we need action, but they need to slow down these things that they're trying to do when nobody wants to be in the room complaining.
Right. The question is, why are we talking about this?
Yeah.
We're of all the things that we got going on, why are we talking about this right now? And I think you're right. They're trying to pork belly it in with the crisis that we already have.
They know the opposition in front of them is not going to be as strong because they got this blanket this blanket of COVID behind them,
right,
or on top of them.
And they do have one legitimate factual point that they have is, firearms aren't allowed in federal buildings.
That's
post
fine.
Office.
They're a hard target anyway. Typically, they got armed guards in the building.
That's right. So there's a lot on both sides, but I think that's probably their biggest factual argument, because at the end of the day, why are we even talking about this? We got a lot of stuff going on. Like, why are we talking about this? Like, why is this all of a sudden we got to take care of this? And I think it's just coming in on, number one, it's coming in off the back of a very controversial election cycle. Number two, I think that the old saying goes, never let a crisis go
to waste.
Yeah. That's the Clintons' big thing.
Yeah.
And I think they're using that to push that through, push an agenda through, an agenda of change through, when we don't even have, really have a problem. I mean, they're creating a problem that wasn't really there.
Yeah.
To solve it in the name
who's
of,
coming up? Like who in this committee is coming up, or this council is like, now's a good time. Like, these are the things we should be doing. And then they bring this up because they know that the opposition is going to be as little as possible because no one wants to get into the room. You know, like why are they thinking this in this community? This is a majority of people are pro 2A, I think, in this area.
In this area.
You know?
But, you know, if you look in the zip code or in the Blacksburg proper, which are the people who can vote and attend and vote and comment during town council meetings, I think the majority of those are probably on the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
So the lack of conservative opposition.
Man, and I would be a conservative opponent to those measures, and I'm trying to find my way into this community. You know, I live in Christiansburg currently.
Yeah, me too.
And I love Blacksburg so much. You know, I appreciate this community and what it is to the New River Valley so much. And I'm trying to enter this community at some point, but they're making it so hard. They're making the tax rates unmanageable. They're just making things very hard for somebody that aspires to be a part of this community to enter the community.
Yeah, and I think that, well, first of all, I grew up here in Blacksburg, and so I went to Blacksburg High School and went to Virginia Tech, so I'm here.
Yeah.
And my family's been in business here in January, it'll be 50 years.
Wow.
So that's a long time to be in business somewhere.
Yeah.
But, you know, what's weird is I still feel like a little bit of an outsider in a way. Like, even if you break it down to the way that we talk, you and I have very similar dialect, Appalachian dialect.
Yeah.
And, you know, you don't hear that from a lot of people or residents and stuff. And I think that it's not the same as what I grew up in. And I think, you know, there's this weird little movement that's saying, you know, we want to keep Blacksburg, but I don't know if it's that or if you want to make Blacksburg what you want to make Blacksburg.
Yeah. And
it's kind of different. It's way different than when I grew up. Now, I will say that I think that obviously in my personal belief system, I've kept, you know, purposely quiet on social media because I have a business to run there.
Sure.
And so I'm trying to serve everybody.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of quiet about where I am on everything.
Sure.
Because these people, my customers, even through the pandemic when the students went home, like, they're still coming in. Like, I was still working on cars.
Yeah.
And I feel very fortunate and blessed that I have that.
Yeah.
And I know that those people might not see things along the same lines as I do, but man, I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I have to be careful what I say because I don't want
to. Me and you are in the same boat in a lot of ways. You know, we're in sales. We have to have people accept us. You know, I've gotten a little bit more vocal probably than you just because I've bottled it up and suppressed it for so long, and I just felt like there needed to be someone else on the other side. You know, I've always in my lifetime I've always kind of been the outsider or taken the opposition opinion just to have the argument. Yeah. Even though I might actually agree with you on the other side, if it's, you know, I love the quote that if everyone's thinking the same, then no one's thinking.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
I agree with that.
You can't all be thinking the same because no progress happens.
Right.
So when you talk progressing the conversation, nothing progresses until there's opposition. Nothing really.
Yeah, because you have to be challenged on whatever your belief.
You do.
And I think, you know, like for me, I think that I'll listen. Like, I'm not so set in my way, like that I'm not going to listen to what someone's saying because I want to make sure that I gather all the facts on both sides. And then based on what I know in my, you know, sphere of like understanding, I make my own common sense judgment about this or that.
Yeah.
So I'll listen. I'm not totally against that. So I think that there's some middle ground. I think that there are not enough conservative voices. You know, I always say, you know, when you drive on 460 Business, when you pass Corning, the world's a different place. And it really is.
Yeah.
And so I think on our side over here, I spent the majority of my life on this side of Corning, even though I live on the other side of Corning.
Right.
So I think I think having a few conservative voices over here, speaking up, I think is good.
Yeah,
and we have to be respectful because we know we're outnumbered, and
we do.
We got to respect people, and
I think there's
where they're coming from.
You've heard the word silent majority. I don't know if it's a majority, but they sure are silent, and that's the only reason why I just couldn't not be on the opposition, because the people that are saying what the mainstream is saying, they're so loud that a lot of people can buy in. So there needs to be somebody there challenging that, especially when all the power is that. In Blacksburg, it seems like they unanimously decide on things with no opposition.
Well, in this case, that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Because they're using it, like you said, piggybacking it in with the crisis. I think if you could sit down and have a conversation with them about the facts, if you had somebody who had facts and could sit down and say, okay, let's look at this thing. Let's look at this thing through the lens of some factual information and some numbers and statistics, and what we're trying to accomplish as a community. Is what you're doing going to bring us further as a community? How's this going to help our community? And or are you doing it because you're just trying to take a stance?
You're trying to have some moral high ground and feel good.
Right, virtue signaling is what they call it.